So let's move on and try something that might be a little bit more advanced. Instead of using one of these pre-built templates, we're going to try and solve a problem that I have sometimes in my business and try and automate it. So the first thing, as usual, is I have to think through the problem and the steps that would be useful. So I have decided that I want to create an agent that will take the form submissions to my contact me on my website and create a new folder for that client when a request comes in, and then maybe research the organization and send me a summary about it so I can make a decision about how I want to proceed. So we're going to need to come up with an agent that will do all of those things. And that might not fit into something that's already pre-built. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click over here and build our own agent from scratch. You're going to hit that blue plus sign. And as always, every agent needs a trigger, something that's going to kick it off. So in this case, it's going to be when somebody submits a form to my website. So in order to prepare to build this agent, if this is something you're interested in, you're going to need to get a few things ready. We're going to move over to my other screen here, and you're going to have a folder that has a Google form in it, a contact me form with your responses, somewhere that you can house your new clients as they come in. And I also like to have an index of all of my clients built in a spreadsheet. And it would be great for me if an agent can just do that for me automatically. So what we want to build is when a form comes in, my index gets automatically updated, a new folder is started for the client, and an agent will do some research about the organization and send it to me. So to kick that all off, we're going to have to go back and create a trigger. And in this case, we're going to choose when a form response comes in. We've already built all those assets. So all I have to do is tell this agent where I want it to draw the form response from. I might have 100 forms. It needs to know which form do I care about. And in this case, it is my Work with Rebecca form. So that is the trigger. When a form response comes in, it's going to activate this sleeper agent. So then maybe the next thing that I want it to do is go ahead and just create a folder for this new client. So we're going to do our first action. We're going to hit choose a step, and we're going to scroll down until we find under Drive, create a folder. And again, an agent can't operate unless it knows what information to use. So it needs to know what we want the folder name to be. And that information exists in the form that the client submitted, which is our starter step. So the variable is what information does this agent need to use? We're going to hit variable, and I want this folder to be named the client's name. So when I click back to step one, it has all of the fields that are collected in the form, and I'm just going to hit full name. So now it has that information from step one. When it creates a new folder for me, it will call it the full name of the folder. I might add new inquiry after it. And now I also need to tell it where I want this new folder to live. So looking over here at this client intake master folder I already started, I'm going to tell it I want it to live in that new client folder. And it can go ahead and it should work. Always, after every step, I like to test it. Now, down here at the bottom, and it's kind of a little bit covered by this recording notification, but there's a button next to the blue turn on button that says test run. I recommend after every step, you give it a quick test run. So I'm going to hit test run, and let's just make sure that it's going to be doing that. So this is a dummy response I submitted to my form before I started recording. I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And we will hope that it's not at max capacity, but you can see it working. So it's going to take that form response as my test, and then it's going to go ahead and create a folder. Because I was the client under my own name, I can go over to my new client folder now, and I can see here's the new folder that was created exactly how I wanted it to be. So that's perfect. I don't ever have to do anything with that again, because every time a folder comes in, it's going to take care of that for me. Now, this is where it gets kind of fun, because we can ask this agent to take a look at that form information when it comes in and ask Google Gemini, the large language model, to identify what the organization is and maybe do a little bit of research for us on the organization and give it back to us as part of that deciding whether they are a fit or to help prepare for a discovery workspace, whatever it needs to get that done. So we're going to go ahead and finish that step. And now when this is done, we're going to have this research. Well, we need to figure out what it's going to do with this research and how we're even going to be notified about this information. So we're going to add another step here where we're going to, maybe within our Ask Gemini, we're also going to have it then, please summarize this information and everything in the form that they submitted. So their entire response that they submitted in Google form is going to be the variable here, and write it into a bullet point summary of what I need to know. So if it puts this together, we can then have it shoot me an email with this information when it's done. For that, we'll add one more step. We're going to say send an email to me. We're going to call the subject new inquiry, and we will have it pull again the name of the person who submitted the form. And as a variable, let's also have it submit their organization. And I want the body of the message to be what Gemini came up with in step 3. So do you remember we asked Gemini here to do some research and summarize what was in the form for us? We have no way to get that until it emails to us. So we're going to have it just send us the output and the content created by Gemini in step 3. And from there, we're going to give it a test run to see how it does. I don't know how much it'll be able to research about my organization. And I also don't know if there's going to be a ton of traffic right now because so many people are trying this out. I keep getting error messages, but let's give it a test run. So it's going to use that same response that I submitted, the most recent one that I submitted under my name. And we can see that it is running. We're going to start it again. And we should be able to see what it's going to do. And head on over to my email to see if it's sent me anything. So it still says that Gemini is at capacity, which is unfortunate, but we'll try and run it again in a little while and see if it can do it. But what should happen is the form that I submitted should be created in a new folder. That information should be given to Google Gemini to run a little bit of a research or background on the organization and summarize the request for me, and then email it to me so I can make a decision. What else would be useful in this process for an agent to do? Well, I also have this spreadsheet that I use to track all of my new clients. And it might be useful to have an agent just add information from that inquiry form automatically to that spreadsheet without me ever having to worry about it or manually copy and paste information over. And that could be a step in this process. So we can add steps wherever we want, but we could see if maybe after it creates the folder, we can add a step up, or it can add it right here where we will add a row to a spreadsheet. So we're going to add a row to my existing spreadsheet, which is my engagement index spreadsheet. We want it to add right under the last row of information, but we need to tell it exactly what to add. So what it's going to give me here are my existing columns in my spreadsheet that I already have. This agent needs to know exactly what information I want in which columns of my spreadsheet. And I only have to do this once and it will know every time, but it does have to be mapped, which means I have to tell it what the variables are. So for example, the client name here, That is the name of the column in my spreadsheet. I need to choose the matching variable from step 1, which is the form everybody fills out. I need to go in and find the full name, and now that is mapped. Every time a form comes in, it's going to map that to my spreadsheet. And you'll go down through each of these, the email, find it on that response. The request date, that should be part of the Google form that it's collecting anyway. So that should be the response time. The folder link, remember, it created a folder for me in step 2. So if I go back to my agent in step 2 and click link to folder, it will automatically add that link to the folder it created right to my spreadsheet. So those things will already be linked. The source, that can be something that I ask on my form. Maybe, how did you find out about me? So I find that, how did you find me? And there are some other fields here. Notes, maybe I want to map the notes section of my spreadsheet to what type of supporter you're looking for, or what's your situation or goal. I'll have that map there. And I'm going to change this client name that I added here. I told you this wasn't going to be a perfect video, to the organization, and the contact name to the actual name of the person who contacted me. And client ID is a little bit more complicated because we're going to add a step later to have an agent generate that for us already, but this should be good enough right now. So at this point, that should be mapped. So to recap, when a form comes in, somebody fills it out, and then this agent will take the name of the person in the organization from that form and create a brand new folder automatically. Then it's going to take the contents of that form and do some research and write some information about it. And then it's going to email us that information. And then finally, it's going to update our engagement index, the spreadsheet that we have living in that folder, all at the same time. One other thing we might want to do is, besides just sending us an email with all that information, we might also want it to create a new document and just put all that information in a new document right in that client folder. So we might want to add a new step that is create a doc. So as part of this, we want this document to be named after the client within that folder. We're going to go back to step 1, which is find that full name of the client, and then maybe also the organization name. We're going to find that again in step 1. That's where most of our information is going to live until the new information is built. Let's see here, we're going to find the organization. So that's going to be the name of the new document. The content that we want added to that document is going to be that information that Gemini generated for us. It's going to email it to us, but it's also going to add it to our Google. You'll find, because this is brand new, you're going to run into some little weird things, and it's probably not you, it's probably just the system. But for example, there's no way that I can find right now to have this new document we're creating add to the folder that we already created. Maybe there's a way, but for right now, I just have to add it to my generic new client folder, and I'll probably just have to manually add it. That will probably be something that will be fixed later, or maybe there's a way to do it that I just haven't learned yet. But now that we've got that document created, we can track that whole response and all that research forever for that client, and it's linked to our master spreadsheet. You also have the option to reorder your steps. You just click on the 3 dots. I'm going to move that up and have it send the email, then create the document, and then add the row at the end to my master spreadsheet. So just to recap, when a form comes in, someone fills out any kind of a form, it's going to automatically create a folder for me with the client's name and the person who contacted me. Then it's going to ask Gemini to summarize their request and do a little bit of research about the company for me. Then it's going to send me an email with that information. I may also decide to add a step to have it send me something in Google Chat, if that's like how I get information. But I'm also going to have it create that same information into a document so that I have it for my records. Finally, it's going to go in and add a row to my existing client tracker spreadsheet, mapping all of those variables. And I should be left with all of these things that I don't have to manually do. I don't have to go create a new folder. I don't have to fully review the request and go research the organization. I'm still going to check the information, obviously. But then it's just going to send it to me so I have it all in one place. It's going to file that information in the client folder so that I can always find it and track it on the spreadsheet so I have all the links to all of my client folders in one place. One other thing we might decide to do in this Ask Gemini section is to please also identify 3 to 4 questions that I should ask during this discovery phase when I talk to them in a meeting. And I could have a step where it references a document that's all about the things I do and I don't do so it can identify fit for me. But for right now, we'll see how it does with that. And you're going to be constantly tweaking. The most important thing to remember is to always give it a lot of test runs. And you can't see it super well because it's covered by my recording software at the bottom here. But this test run will tell you how it's going to do. Now, I'm going to push this video out no matter what, even though it's far from perfect. But you'll notice, as I am, I'm going to run this test run. You're going to get errors all day. Hopefully by the time you watch this video, maybe you won't, but there's so many people interested in using these agents, it's hitting these capacity limits. So you can see my test is running and it hits this, we are at capacity, we'll be back soon. So I'm fairly confident that this agent will run as planned, but until you're not at capacity, it's going to be hard to know, but you should get all green check marks. I should be able to go check my folder and check the document and check my spreadsheet and check my email. And all of those things should just happen for me. When I feel confident that the test works, you're going to go ahead and push this blue button to turn it on and give it a name. And you can have as many agents as you want doing lots of different things simultaneously for you. You can build steps into this and you can add on to them. You can have small agents, big agents, but I like this for a client intake agent. And there's a lot of different things you can do with this that we'll talk about in future videos. But for now, do some experimenting. Don't worry about hitting the at capacity. Play with what you ask Gemini to do for you. Give it better prompts to get better responses. Go have ChatGPT write you a really great prompt and copy and paste it in here. Do some experimenting, but figure out, most importantly, and do this by talking to ChatGPT or Gemini, where could an agent be useful for me? What things am I doing over and over again? And how could this potentially help me? And you might find even just a few shortcuts that save you 5 to 10 minutes a day. That time really adds up. So I look forward to seeing what you're building, and I hope this was useful.